But he chose that. And that's where we all have to choose, who are you going to become? No matter where you've been. You got to wake up one day, and it could be any day. And that's the best part about God, is it's a new day every day. But when are you going to make that choice?
Hey folks, this is Thaddeus, Mike, and we got Matt here in studio. We are on the Road to Recovery podcast, which is sponsored by the Flagler County Drug Court Foundation. Again, this is a podcast to bring hope to the community, to share stories of people that have recovered, and for people that are helping in the mission. Mike, you have a very special guest, and I'll have you take the ball from here.
Thank you, Thaddeus. I appreciate that. Well, people, today it's my great pleasure to bring to the table a good friend. His name is Matt.
Sir?
He has been in recovery. His road has not been a straight ride. There's been ups and downs and bounces and bumps. But I can tell you, I don't know, we've known each other now probably going on close to 4 years or so.
More than
or
that.
maybe more than that. I can't remember how far back.
Since 2018.
Okay.
I don't know when that was, but it's been a while.
It's been a while. We actually met at a Bible study.
We did.
Yeah.
Thank you to the Department of Corrections.
Yeah, Matt had requirements of a certain amount of meetings he had to go to, and we were able to get this meeting approved.
Amen.
And he came to it, and it had a bunch of good guys that really cared about people, didn't much care about their past, were not critical about because we'd all been through something in our lives that maybe we shouldn't have been. And Matt came to be there, and as he got comfortable and knowing that we were all there for the same reason.
You can open up a little bit.
Yes, you did.
And then that's when you start the healing process.
That's it. So Matt, I'm going to bring you back, and I have no tissue paper here, so you're going to have to deal. You're going to have to deal with it.
That's why I wore a work shirt.
Okay.
I can blow my nose on it.
And the people out there, what we're trying to do here is educate our community, number one, and encourage those who are going through what you've been through, that there is hope. That there is hope. That don't give up.
Yes.
So we need to hear the story. And I know your story goes back to long before you were able to grow a beard or a mustache.
Yeah.
You got that. There you go.
Yes, sir.
So bring us as comfortable as you think you might be. Let's hear your story.
Yeah, well, it's heavy for me, and all of our traumas are different. So when I explain it, somebody could hear it and be like, oh, that ain't nothing. So that's where I start off with, I try to just speak my truth and go as far forward as possible. It's hard for me because it's still all sad.
Yes.
I still experience my past every day. So, it goes back to as far as I can remember. You go back to the first time you had alcohol. It was before you're taller than the kitchen cabinets.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I always based things in my life. I never knew how old I was. I always went off of things that happened to me, or things I experienced, or things that I saw. And that's how, there was no child. Like, now that I have a son, it wasn't a planned childhood, really. Like, everything was just, you're living.
Yep.
And you're surviving. And if you don't live like this, you're going to get ran over. And it's more or less a lifestyle than it was a choice at that time. So, and that's where, I grew up with a father that, and I'm going to kind of jump back and forth, because I think to shorten up the story, but also play a role in what's going on now in life, to where, the things that were done and
Yep.
and where it was at. But I had a father that, now that I'm a father, woke up and chose what he chose every day over what he had. So, in it was drugs, it was alcohol, it was women. I was sleeping in, I don't know how far I'd go, but
You can go any place you want to be or feel you can be.
the abuse was always there. I watched them do things to my mother that it was hard, especially because as a man now, you don't want to see that.
No.
And it was all uncontrollable. There was nothing nobody could do. So say, it's like the things were happening, but nothing was getting done about it. So it became a normal. And when you grow up in that, just like now, and I tell kids, you are, and you can't, there's no excuse that can be made, but you are a product of your environment. No matter who you are, no matter how strong you are, you will become what you put yourself into every day. And so to us as kids, that's what it was. We grew up angry. We grew up, it was tough love.
Mm-hmm.
But shout out to my mom.
And I can testify to that.
She
She is one great lady.
She's strong.
Yep. Matter of
And
fact,
I use her as an example because I talk to guys and I'm like, we all use, and going into my story, I'll keep rolling. She'll come into play later on. But it was once my parents divorced is when it kind of got rocky. Dad's only allowed so far from the house. You locked door. It was wild. It was a wild time. Having to stay at grandma's house because you don't know why. My oldest sister at that time would have been 13, but we're getting dropped off at the mall up in Erie because dad's at home beating mom, and we can't be around. And then what do you find? 13-year-old sister hanging out with 28-year-old guys that you can't be in this group unless you wear this color. And it wasn't even, thinking about what I saw later on in life, it was such petty things that people thought they were so cool and hard, and as a kid you're looking at these guys like, man, you're big and you're strong, and your dad's off doing the same shit and he's got a name for himself, excuse my language, but he's got a name for himself too. So would find something you admire and become that. Well, as a kid, you admire your dad. So let's roll forward. It was a lot of abuse again. My brother and my dad had talked my brother one night into running away. And my brother talked me into it. I'm thinking, as a kid, this was probably first grade. So just so you get I don't know how old you are in first grade, but we told my mom we were going out to the garage 9:00 at night. And we bounced. We ran. And that's when, excuse me, it got rough because we were with my dad. There was no set home. Home was grandma's house. He'd be doing good for a second, and then we'd be down in Erie, and I'd be waking up. We were supposed to be going to dinner, 6:00 at night, and it'd be midnight. My brother and I'd still be in the truck. He'd be getting high. My brother would sleep over top. Excuse me. I haven't told it like this in a while. But my brother would sleep over top of me because, you got people coming up that part of town. It was crazy. And it was my brother and I that were able to take my mom to a house that it was actually that night. We knew how to get down to Erie. And mind you, we lived 30 minutes away. We knew how to get there. Took her straight to the house, and sure shit enough, there's the van back in the alleyway, and he was supposed to be out selling pumpkins. So gives you an idea where, your kids save a piggy bank for a vacation and you got $180 and then dad's gone for 3 days. it was that. There was no future. There was no inspiration to do better, and people in that state of mind don't want you to do better than them.
That's
So
right.
how much are they really going to motivate you? And you don't know that as a kid. You're not learning all that. You're growing up fast, but you're not learning the moral part of it, the responsibility part of it. What a true adult and a true parent is supposed to do. And I lack that because you know what? I had girlfriends with kids. I've had, you try to play that role and you could try, but until you really commit, that role is, well, and that'll go further too, I think, into the story when I become a father and how it really changes you. But making it quick, my brother and I ran away. It was tough. And I remember the hardest part was we had no clothes. We were living in a campground. I was siphoning gas from my dad out of gas tanks for his car. There was multiple times we'd just be locked into rooms and places that kids shouldn't be and seeing things that kids shouldn't see. And to be honest with you, I think it was that saved my life because I was able to present something to in the court system at that time for somebody to do something. It was that story I was able to tell looking through the crack of the door, knowing that what I saw, you can't deny that.
Mm-mm.
So, when I went into that courtroom, this would have been now 3 years. So mind you, we ran away, and I'm thinking it's for a day. This went on, we were gone for 3 years. And I tell people, you wake up in the middle of the night, third, fourth grade with the flu, 3 o'clock in the morning, and your parents aren't home. That's a shitty place to be. And you don't know where dad's at. Shout out to my grandmother, because without her, we wouldn't have made it to school. We wouldn't have ate. It would have been rough.
Mm-hmm.
But it's your dad, so you're like, whatever. You roll with it. You take the punches, and that's what you do. And then my mom finally got me back, and I'll never forget it, though, my dad coming up to me and him telling me, and there's no shame anymore. I was scared to tell this for a long time.
Yeah.
And you are, because you're scared to hurt other people, but eventually you get sick of living with it once you start realizing that it's not right and it's not okay.
And it wasn't you.
And you're allowed to speak up. You're allowed to speak out. And you know what? I'd rather, like I did in fourth grade, when that man bent over and told me, if you say anything, I'll kill you. In my mind, I said, I'm going to die anyways. I haven't eaten in 3 days. So I had to pick a choice. And I'll tell you what, I'm glad I picked it, and I'll take it to the grave, that I think any of us would die than rather being tormented for the rest of our lives because we think somebody else is judging or thinking we are wrong for believing something else. You're allowed to believe that it's wrong. And that's all I got to say. Like, we could end the story right there and drop the mic. It's not right, and you're allowed to believe that.
Yeah.
But my mom, I feel like that's where it comes back. She saved my life, and then I tormented hers because at that time I was a fifth grade boy that, I'd already experienced drugs. I'd already experienced cigarette, like I was already into the street life, and those were the friends that I seeked. Meanwhile, playing sports and being a heck of a sports player. I probably, at that time, it was crazy because I went from living like that to my mom, she took me right to the farm and I went to work. But at that time, I would have done anything not to go back to where I was. So it's like, you want me to work 100 hours a week? I don't care. And that's what it was. And I really enjoyed it. And that's where I knew that there was two sides of life. Everybody's got problems, but it might not have been easy on the farm, but there was a home to go to. They ate dinner. We all, there was problems and stuff like that, but you got through it as a family. And that's where I knew, like, you start balancing things out. And, but it was already too late. I was already so angry. I could jump back a little bit to tell you that I'll just keep rolling and then we'll come back to what the worst of it is at the latest part. But, so I just was hard on my mom, in and out, couldn't keep me home, like if I could kick my own butt, I'd go back and kick my own butt. Because she tried. And you can't deny the love that you have for the children. Even if you're a bad parent, you still have this feeling for a kid that you know is yours. So I know she cared, and I know she tried her hardest, but we had that mentality already. So I ran with it, and I ran pretty hard. And in that midst of my first and second grade summer, I had been molested, and I was angry. So, you can't go out and do things that you really feel like doing. So the first thing I did was turn to self-sabotage. And that's where the drug rolling came in, because there was never enough. It was just a constant, I think I had acid dripped in my mouth by seventh grade. Like it was a lot. I had experienced a lot at a super young age. So that's what life was, though. I didn't know anybody that didn't do it. It was weird. Now that I look back at it, and later on in life, when I started stepping out, I became where there was things being purchased by pastors, and you find people not doing the right thing, and then you realize, okay, my own family let me down. Now I got people that are supposed to be these good people in society, and they're out here doing this, but then they go here on Sunday and act like that. So it's like, I didn't know where to turn. And growing up at a Catholic school, I couldn't even told you who Jesus was at that time. No clue. Growing up Methodist, it was like going to a Catholic school. You weren't a part of the circle, so we didn't experience the full experience of it. So I still didn't know who Jesus was at that point, even into my early teens, into my life. I knew it was, oh, you did bad, throw some holy water on you, throw a cross down, and kiss your Italian horn and roll out. That's what it was. It was good luck that day.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought it was. So I talked to God that way. I always talked to him when I needed him. Like, God, I'm hurt. Like you always find yourself like praying to God. You probably don't even, I know I didn't even realize it. Like as ungodly as I was always talking to him. And I think we all find ourselves, especially experiencing things we experience, near-death experiences or anything like that. You could be as far away from God, but you'll find yourself talking to God at some points in your life.
Yep.
And so, believing or not, that's where I was. I knew he was in my heart. So I kind of used it as he's got my back. I can do whatever I want. It's okay. But what happened is I had all the reasons. I was angry. I had reasons to be angry. I had reasons probably to get high. I had all the reasons in my teens into early 20s, Mike. But what happened is all those reasons, I went into my 20s and there was no care in life. Like I had that mentality that I just didn't care. And it wasn't now that I look back, I'm like, man, it's just a sad place to be because, I was suffering. And as normal as I might have looked or as hard as I might have been, I was suffering. So how strong really is that? Knowing that you're just being hard because you're so broken. Like it's hard, you try to find yourself, I guess. And you're picking, you see these other guys out here that are living and you don't know who to look up to. When you're on the street, what do you look towards or where do you gravitate? It's either the drugs and you start selling drugs so then you can get your own drugs. And then it turns into just a snowball effect of bad. And then I realized in my 20s, it was just all those reasons that I technically had just became my excuses.
Got it.
Like, oh, this happened to me, that's why I'm this way. Or this happened to me, that's why I do these drugs. Like, you don't understand, you'll never understand. It just became why I was who I was. But nobody ever asked. Nobody ever asked. So how was I supposed to be? I didn't think I was supposed to go be at that time, you're like, well, nobody cared that I was in that basement and that was happening to me. Who was I going to tell? It's happening to multiple people. So what do you say? You don't want to be that guy, because I know some pretty dark experiences from other people that you can't say nothing. So that's what you grow up living with. And I held that in, long story short, till I was 36 years old. And I'm 38 now. So, you know, and you were the first person I called. You know, I was jumping around house to house, never stable. I was a walking figure of my father, but I thought I was better than him. I wasn't him because I didn't have his name, but I became him. What I found out is I was better than him. He was good, and he is good at what he does. He'd have been good at anything. He'd have been good at anything, and but he chose that, and that's where we all have to choose. Who are you going to become? No matter where you've been, you got to wake up one day, and it could be any day, and that's the best part about God is it's a new day every day. But when are you going to make that choice? And I stayed angry through my 20s. After relationship, you know, I tried to be this dad role, and it was just more drugs. The older I got, the more angry, the more, like, as the years go by, you can't deny it. You can't stop it. So that's when I just, I was in a relationship, and it was just just a bad altercation, and it saved my life. One of the worst experiences of my life saved my life. And you know, you look back and you wish you could go back and ask all the people for forgiveness. You know, and then you wish people would ask you if you would forgive them, but you might not ever get that. And I've learned that. But in my heart, you know, I wish it would have went different ways, but in a way, I'm glad it went the way it did, because it changed my life for the better. Mm-hmm. And that's where you come in, pretty much at 30 years old there, 8 years ago.
It's an incredible journey, and I know that there's lots of it that we won't be able to talk about today. But knowing where you've been, and a lot of what he's telling you, it's a lot deeper than it sounds. And knowing where you are now, knowing what you've done over the last few years of being able to stick to a plan and make it happen.
Ooh.
Okay. Matt had a natural talent for plumbing, and he was doing a plumber's helpers, a variety of people in town. And then he decided he was going to go out and take the classes, do all that stuff to learn to get his own license. And we talked quite a bit during that period of time, off and on, and how difficult that those classes were, and how many times you might have had to take the tests that are required to get a license. And then a little while ago, I get a phone call or a text, I can't remember which one it was, says, it happened. Finally got your license. You're now a master plumber, licensed in the state of Florida.
Yes, sir.
And it's phenomenal. It is absolutely phenomenal. Knowing what you've been, knowing the story. I remember one story you telling me about the places your dad would take you. Okay, they were drug houses.
And I look back now, to me, it was, you know, there was kids there. So it was like, oh, you play with these kids, but then you open the fridge and there's nothing but a moldy pack of bologna, and that's it.
Yep.
So you sit there for 3 days and see what you're going to do, or 2 days, whatever, even 12 hours, 2 hours. It doesn't matter. It just shouldn't be.
And I don't want to leave the conversation without talking a little bit about Mom.
Yes, sir.
Again, I got to meet Matt's mom, probably not right away as we started meeting and getting to know each other, but a little later on to that, and got to know her story and what she had to go through to try to protect her kids under the threats that came on her life. And knowing where she is, where she done, she's a phenomenal lady with a lot of patience. who really did love her kids, but wasn't able to be the best mom she could be, because when she did, she'd end up beaten.
Yeah, I got
And
quick story. My brother and I had no clothes, nothing. We hadn't seen my mom in 2 years, and my dad had dropped us off for Christmas, and she had 2 big black garbage bags full of gifts. And we got them, spent the time there, cool. She sent us home. We get 20 minutes down the road with Pops, telling us how she's doing nothing but trying to buy love and this and that. Literally turned the car around, told us, take them back up there and tell her you don't want them. And when I watched my mom's face and watch how brokenhearted she was, and then a year later when she got me back, I go up in the attic of her house and those 2 bags are sitting in the attic. And it's just like, she didn't deserve that.
No.
She didn't deserve that. I use her for an example, especially around guys that use drugs and everything. That woman took more beatings than a grown man. That woman had all the reasons. She had 4 kids that really pushed her to the limit. And she had all the reasons to go get high.
And
why our moms
right.
and dads go home and crack a beer or light a joint. It's great. Yeah, it feels good. I love it. But the best part is finding the strength to overcome it. So your kid, because we can tell our kids to be whatever, but as soon as you turn around, they're going to watch you, and they're not going to listen to a darn thing you say.
And I don't know if I have the story correct, so correct me if I've got it wrong. Because people will say, well, why did she stay with your father that long? Because he threatened her. If he left.
A lot.
Okay. And the threat was not just a beating.
No.
The threat was life.
I watched my dad faint with a 30-06 against my mom's forehead. Okay, I don't know if anybody knows what a 30-06 hunting rifle is, but and then watched him get carried away in an ambulance. I don't know if he was just that high or what it was, but I think back and I close my eyes, and as a little boy, I see that split moment to this day, and thank God that my mom didn't experience what we all know could have happened on the way of him fainting.
I don't know if she'll ever feel comfortable enough to come on here and talk, but
I asked her about it.
I know myself and my wife have great admiration for her. We've only met a few times, but the conversations we have and understanding where she's come, where she is, and what she's done for her kids.
Way more than we deserve.
Oh,
way more than we deserve.
It's just incredible.
And I'm glad that I get a chance to say it, because you could call her and tell her, but it's not like being able to say, you know what, this is real. I wouldn't be, even all the good things that I've done, I might get there, but I'd be old and frail if it wasn't for her, because she's the one that gave me that stepping stone to really get to where I'm at as quick as I've got.
Yeah.
And she's the only one that can get through my thick head to say, yo, stop, stupid. It feels good hearing her every day, put God first.
Yep.
And that's what it's about. If I could tell anybody one thing, I left school at the end of my 9th grade year. Never read a full book in my life. And if you persevere through the opposition, and you wake up and make the choice every day to try to better yourself, it will happen if you believe it.
And that's what this is all about. Hope.
Amen.
Not giving up on it.
That's it.
Persevere, persistence. How long did you go through the plumbing license program before you got it?
It was almost a 3-year process. And, typically you could go take it. There's 2 tests, a technical test that's got a 25% pass rate. The Florida bar has a 65% pass rate. So as somebody that left school at a young age and never read books and everything like that, it was a very big intimidation for me. There's this test anxiety. There's all these things that we all feel. And that's where you will keep sabotaging yourself, and you'll even make more excuses of not only what happened to you in the past, but what you're doing to yourself, or you'll self-talk yourself right out of anything in life because you feel like you're not enough because of what somebody else thinks about you or said about you or how they hurt you. You got to look beyond it and know that, you got to have that mentality that I can. I can.
And that's something that we talk about on these podcasts continuously. It's reducing that. The way people think about people that are going through the struggles that Matt's gone through and some of the others that have been on the program already that have gone through, and you keep being critical of them because of what they're going through, you're the ones holding them into where they were.
Absolutely.
Okay? Stigma is what it's called. What it is lies. And people not understanding that people go through stuff, and you've got to be an encourager. You can't be putting people down, because how long did you believe the lies before you were able to come through it?
A long time. And you know what's crazy as a father now, when my son, you know, there's things you realize that are so out of your control, and that's where God comes in. You realize when you have a kid, you're like, man, I didn't do that. I didn't even teach him that. You know, like, you have no control over that. But they're gonna watch you in everything that you do and everything that you are. And I think for our actions, and that's where it's so hard, because go ahead. Yeah. There's so much I want to say. You know,
we'll have you back.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay,
definitely.
we'll have you back.
Definitely.
And because your story is, there's more to it. But the other thing is that people can only wait so long. They need to be able to digest what they've heard so far, and then come back, and we can give them the rest of the story at another time.
Definitely.
And hopefully you'll do that. And maybe we'll have you and your mom on together one day.
I would love that.
Because we have one other chair, so
that.
we can do that.
Yeah. Yep.
We can do this. So Matt, bless
I really
you.
appreciate it.
I appreciate you coming on. I know it took a lot of courage. You can tell your story out in the street to people that are going through what you're going through, but to coming out and doing it this way, I can see where the concerns, you don't know, you haven't been, but I'm telling you, you're going to have a positive effect on people that are out there that are going through the struggles that you've been through. And hopefully you're going to have that same positive effect on people that don't understand what you've gone through, so they can start changing their attitude toward people that are struggling.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I encourage my son. You know, when he gets in trouble, I don't tell him, oh, you don't yell at him. You make them understand that that's not you. I know you're a good kid. Like, and genuinely, he screwed up one time, so to define it as like, oh, you're a screw, and that's where it starts.
Yep.
When I sit here and I tell him I'm proud of him 3 times a day, it's because I mean it, because he's showing me by action that I should be proud of him. So he deserves to hear that.
I've seen him be your assistant
Absolutely.
when you came over to my house, helped me do some little
change
stuff.
The oil of a 2012 Silverado in his spot.
That's fantastic. So, folks out there, tune in, listen to this story, encourage others that you come across. Know that there is hope, regardless what the struggle is. Matt, thank you. Your blessing.
Thank you so much.
We'll have you back again soon.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thaddeus, turn it back to you.
Yeah, we definitely got to have you back, because I have questions, and the audience has questions, such as, excuse me, such as, where's your dad now? And have you found that you've gotten to a place where you've forgiven him? Those are really interesting questions, because obviously the majority of the time we sat here and we talked today, your dad was such a force in your life and how you became who you are. And so it's very interesting. There's actually a movie I was thinking about while we were sitting here. It's the movie I Can Only Imagine. Fantastic movie if you haven't
Great
seen
movie.
it. Have you seen it?
Yes, sir.
Fantastic.
I cried because it
Yeah.
related, and you sit there in the goosebumps. And that's the best thing about when I met God. You know, I was able to feel that. I had feeling again. My sobriety gave me feeling, and I think that's where you start healing, when you can start feeling.
Yeah.
And feeling, okay, I am sad, but it's okay to be sad. You don't have to be so hardcore, because I'll tell you, some of the biggest OGs out there, hardest guys in the world, will tell you it's okay to hug somebody because, they need it.
Mm-hmm.
And they will look out for somebody. Some of the toughest guys in the world will tell you, you know what, this way really ain't that tough. And that's where it's all about.
Yeah.
God bless you.
So we're going to get Matt back on the schedule so he can finish the rest of that story, get those questions answered. I'm sure in the comments, the audience will throw some questions in there, and that way we have a little bit of dialogue back and forth on those questions. So
Absolutely.
I want to give
Matt-
a little quick promotion here,
Mhm.
because Matt gave me an incredible thing to see. He is official. He did get his license.
Nice.
He is a licensed plumber. He started his own company called Johnson's Plumbing Services. Certified Master Plumber with a certification number. So if people are out there, let me give a little plug, a little advertising. If you need some plumbing help,
Thank you.
you can give Matt a call at.
I didn't pay him to say that.
No, you couldn't pay me. 904-814-3385. You'll get Matt. He can come out and do a great job for you. Or Johnson's Plumbing PC at gmail.com.
I just want to encourage people too, if they are going through it right now or whatever it is, there are some amazing testimonies out there that of all walks, of all stories, and there's somebody that can relate to you. So don't think you're alone. Like Michael is somebody that has more avenues of more testimonies to. If it's not him that can relate to you, he knows somebody that can. That's all I got to say. I want to promote you a little bit as well.
Well, thank you. And if you're out there and you're listening and you have something you want to talk about on the road to recovery, give me a call, 401-864-6997, or M. Feldbauer, Feldbauer, at gmail.com. Looking forward to seeing you next time.
So, folks, this has been another episode of the Road to Recovery podcast, which is sponsored by the Flagler County Drug Court Foundation and hosted here at the Flagler Voice Podcast Studio. Again, this is a space where people can come in here and share their story. If they're a business, share what type of business they are, and actually reach out to their audience and our audience. That political candidate can come in here and be transparent, use our call-in features to actually connect to those people that are out there voting. So anyway, this has been Thaddeus, Mike, and Matt on the Road to Recovery podcast. We'll see you next time.